I am joined now by the director of the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, Sara Bloomfield. Thank you so much for being with us, Sara.
Well, thank you for having me.
So as we walk through this museum, we think about the Holocaust, we think of the history within this museum, and then we watch what's happening in Ukraine. And we are talking about this rise in anti-Semitism. What troubles you the most as you think about that?
Well, this is a museum devoted to truth. And what you see happening with Putin is a complete exploitation of historical truth, a rewriting of history. His propaganda is extremely effective for him. And the world needs to learn that lesson. And that's why we study the history of the Holocaust, to learn about the dangers of propaganda, of conspiracy thinking, and that these things can be prevented. We have to look for warning signs.
We're seeing it right now before our eyes when you talk about the propaganda and what Putin is doing.
Yes, all human beings are susceptible to propaganda. One thing I say about our museum is this is a museum about Holocaust history, but also about human nature. You know, the world always changes, but human beings never do. We're always susceptible to fear and resentment.
Every Jewish individual in some way, shape, or form has experienced anti-Semitism. You took me back to the 70s when you first experienced it.
It was 1973, and I was a teacher in Sydney, Australia. And I was invited over to the home of one of my students. And at the dinner table, the family started telling anti-Semitic jokes. And I just couldn't believe it. And I decided that I would introduce the Holocaust to my class. And I taught Elie Wiesel's Night. And the class, through that exercise, discovered that I was Jewish. And it turned out they, too, were anti-Semitic. Of course, they'd never seen a Jew. But they said things to me like, how can you be Jewish? You're normal. How can you be Jewish? You're nice. It was an extraordinary lesson for me, but also for my class.
Tell me what you are most proud of.
It's really teaching new generations from all walks of life. And at the museum, we're trying to teach them not just what happened during the Holocaust, but how and why. What made it possible? Because if we want the future to be different from the past, young people have to be motivated to see their own roles and responsibilities differently. And when you look at what made the Holocaust possible, part of that answer is ordinary people like you and me.
So for ordinary people that walk through this museum, what do you want them to take away?
Well, one of the important things to take away is the Holocaust didn't have to happen. When Hitler came to power, it was clear his anti-Semitic ideology, known to everyone, and he actually did not begin the genocide of the Jews for 8 long years. What happened in those 8 long years? There were many warning signs, and people failed to heed those warning signs. And you know, most people, when you visit the museum, like the Holocaust Museum, they're often saying to themselves, well, what would I have done? We want them to ask that question of themselves, but we want them to go on and ask a second question, which is, what will I do? Because unless we as individuals are committed to confronting things like hatred or complicity or indifference, the world will not change.
Sara, thank you again for empowering us and inspiring us. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.